This afternoon session, again, we're looking at Report Designer, part of our series for the Report Designer 2025 badge. Specifically today, we're looking at the introduction to criteria. So criteria being the little window that pops up when you go to run a report. We'll ask you for things like, do you want to run it for date range or customer range, nominal range, that type of thing. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. What options have you got when it comes to that? Right, now just before we get stuck into the webinar, as usual, we'll quickly go through a bit of housekeeping. I'm sure most of you are familiar with this. A lot of you, the names on the list there, recognise from previous webinars, but just in case anyone is new to webinars, then I'll quickly run you through. So don't need a microphone. If you've got one, if you enable it, you'll find it will be muted automatically. You can't unmute yourself. Any questions, pop them in the questions panel. To do that, you just click the little speech bubble icon. It'll expand. You'll be able to start typing in that box that you get in the bottom right-hand corner. You can do that throughout. Remember to click send as well, otherwise we won't see those comments and questions. So do engage with us. Pop them in there as you go. You don't need to save them until the end. So just whatever you're thinking, just pop it in there. And as I say, we'll try and pop an answer back to you. We've got Laura and Tina on hand today. So lots of knowledge on the Report Designer. So we'll try our best to answer as many as we can. If we don't get a chance to answer your specific question, assuming it hasn't really been covered by other questions or what we've demoed in the webinar, we'll drop you an email at some point. It'll probably be tomorrow. If anyone wants a copy of today's slides, they are available to download during the session, but they are also available via the follow-up email. So a link is included on the follow-up email so that you can download those afterwards. That email, which you'll receive round about an hour after we finish, will also include the link to today's recording. So if you want a bit of a recap and maybe you want to follow it through at your own pace and maybe follow it through in your own time as well, then just watch out for that. There's also links on that email to register for future webinars and also so you can access our previous recordings as well. Right, okay, let's have a look at what we're covering in today's session then. Find the right slide, there we go. Right, so what we're covering is brief introduction to what we're looking at today. Almost nearly covered that already, but we'll then get stuck into a demonstration. You tend to find with Report Designer, it's all about the demonstration. It's a very visual thing that you'll need to learn. It's probably the best way of doing it. Rather than just reading about it, you'll see the various steps. So we're going to run through demonstrations, looking at sort of turning off, on and off the criteria that's there. We'll look at adding new criteria as well. So maybe there's a certain thing you want to add to a report so you can start filtering information on it. We'll look at how you can add criteria as well and what options you've got along the way. And then just right at the end of the session, we'll explain more about the additional support. So there's loads available in our help center, but remember you do get access to those recordings. So I think with Report Designer, it's almost like working through it at your own pace. So do use those recordings. And then obviously there are any outstanding questions as well. We'll hang around and hopefully answer as many of those as we can as well. But again, if you don't get an answer, apologies in advance, but we'll just drop you an email probably tomorrow. Right, okay, so let's have a brief introduction to criteria then. So you've probably, at some point when you run your report, if not every time you run a report, you may have found yourself with, you're looking at the report and think, well, actually, I don't need all of that information. There's too much data on that report once it's been run. And you'll probably be aware of maybe the three options that we've got listed there. So there's a few of these options as a way of helping you to control the data that can be included on the report, or even limited from appearing on the report. So one, before running the report, you're probably aware that we covered this in the very first session. So things to do before you even think about wanting to make changes to your reports. So you can actually select the records. You can apply filters to your lists so that only certain records are then listed. So, you know, if you want customers with, let's say, a certain credit limit, or customers that don't have a balance, you might want to hide them, or maybe you only want customers that have a zero balance. You get in touch with them and say, well, why are you not buying from us? So you can filter your list, and then only the records that are listed, and then on top of that, the ones that are highlighted, if you do have anything highlighted, only those will be included on the report. So it's a good way of sort of maybe almost as a one-off, sort of filtering the information that gets included. Now, going beyond that, where you've got more of a much more sort of a report where you want common things, so you might want to sort of have a filter, but actually you want to change it there and then. And this is where you've got criteria, potentially also filters. Now, criteria would be used when you're running a report where you want to enter that different selection at the time of running the report. Filters, which we're going to be covering in our next session, they would be used where you want it built into the report. So where you don't need to enter a different selection criteria each time, but you do want that, still, you want that information filtered. So again, if you're still thinking about maybe selecting records using filters, using the search option, that type of thing, then do check back at that session number 1. But today's session, we're going to be looking at criteria. That's what we're going to be focusing on today. So it is just an introduction. As I mentioned, filters themselves, so that third bullet there, that's going to be covered in session number 7, aptly named Introduction to Filters. But today's session, hopefully it'll help in that decision when you're looking at reports, which is the best option for you to limit the information. So which is best? What's the simplest? So we'll get stuck in and we'll start working through some examples. Right, so demonstration. Let's share my screen and we'll get started. Right, you should be able to see my desktop at that point. Now I am using Sage 50 Accounts Professional today. The process what we're covering today, it's pretty much the same. We're going to be using reports that everyone should have available, no matter what level of software you're on. So I'm on version 32. You might be on an earlier version. If you're on an earlier version, you're thinking, what's he on about, version 32? Get into our help center, just search for V32, and there should be instructions on how to download and install that. Right, okay. So most of the standard reports in Sage 50 Accounts will probably have at least one criteria applied. So for example, the ability to enter a date range when you run a report, or a customer range, or a nominal. Some of them contain a lot more than that. Again, depends what report you're running and the level of detail that's required. But again, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to looking at the basics. So we're going to look at the customer list report again. So if I just go into customers, you might be sick of looking at this report by now. We use it quite a bit when we start looking at the basics of reporting. So we're going to, as I say, we're going to run that one. So I'm just going to go into reports, the customer details, and the customer list. Now, when I preview that report, you can see this is the criteria window that pops up. So we can specify a customer range, so based on the account references. And there's also an additional criteria. It's fairly a recent one, this one, recent versions. Still been around for quite some time, but still feels fairly recent if you've been using Sage for quite some time, where you can show active or inactive accounts. So again, from the drop downs, you'll be able to choose what it is you're after, but we're just going to choose all accounts. Now, if we did specify a customer range at this point, it would apply that on top of what we've already filtered out. So Caroline, you mentioned you're really sick of the customer list reports. Yeah, it's where we like to start though, so do bear with us on that one. I'm sure we've got some others lined up for you a little bit later on. Right, so we can see this one is essentially it's switched on. So I've got no record selected in the background. I didn't have anything highlighted. I'm just going to OK that. And this is what we end up with. The criteria here, if we zoom in a bit so you can see that as well. So we can see the criteria in this section at the top as well. So it lists it. So it just means if we do generate the report, then we can see what was specified. So if you've got that saved as a, we've printed it out, or maybe we've saved it as a PDF, we can see what was applied. Right, now let's have a look at how this is applied in Report Designer. So we'll edit the report. You should open the design of the report within the Report Designer. We'll just zoom in a little bit as well, just so you can see the information that's on that report. Again, you've seen this already if you've been in there. Excuse me. So if we just pop to report at the top, we're going to go down to criteria. On the two criteria that we got switched on, essentially, these are the ones that are listed. So customer reference, we can see it's enabled, and also the sales ledger. I'll just drag that across so we can see that. It's the sales ledger inactive flag. So again, we can see that one is enabled as well. So you see the buttons are generally grayed out at the moment, but if I do select one, you can see that they become active. Obviously the move up, move down depends on its position. I've got that one highlighted, so I can't move up anymore. But if I highlight the bottom one, you'll see the buttons sort of, they toggle based on the position in there. So just use the bottom one there, the inactive flag. So I'll click modify. And I'm going to change the status, so the third box there, from enabled to disabled. And we'll just OK that. Now, note there was a preset option there as well on the drop-down. I'm not covering that today. You will find more information about the preset option within our help center. So if I just OK that, and I now preview the report, just use that little preview option at the bottom, we're no longer prompted with that additional criteria. So not prompted with anything to do with, is the account inactive or not? All I'm presented is the one bit of criteria that we're left with. So I'll just cancel out of that for the time being. Again, to turn the criteria back on, we just go back to reports, criteria. Now you will see it's disappeared at that point. So it only shows the ones that are enabled when you go back into it. But we do have a little checkbox at the bottom here. So to show the disabled, and it says the 15 disabled criteria available. So I'll just tick the box. Now, a lot of these options that are listed at this point, so things like payment date, transaction department, transaction nominal code, that type of thing, transaction date, they're not relevant to this specific type of report because there's no transactional information on this report. It's just a list of customers. So most of it is actually, it's there, but it is disabled in the background. Now, the one that we previously switched off is the second one on the list. So if I wanted to switch it back on, again, I would just go back to modify. On the status, just set it back to enabled. Just OK that. OK that. And again, when I run the report to preview it, you'll see you'll receive that prompt again. So that's how easy it is to turn criteria off and then back on. So useful if you probably disabled the wrong one. Now, I'm hoping you're familiar with the analysis fields. If you've not touched them before, if I just close out the Report Designer for a moment. So if you pop into a customer record, just as an example, just maximize that as well. And on the defaults tab, you've got what we term the analysis field, sometimes referred to as the custom fields these days as well. So you've got essentially, these are available in quite a few different areas, and we sometimes run a little webinar on this as well, looking at the custom fields, how you can change the titles and the type of thing you can put in them. They are just text boxes at the end of the day, but if you've got a particular use for them, for instance, customer type, so I might want to record that type against the customer. So you might use it for something that you want to record against the customer. So you can flag the customer in a certain way so that maybe you can then apply filters. You might just use them as another way of recording a bit more information about that customer. But you'll find they're available just about throughout the software as well. So customers, suppliers, you'll find them in products, projects. And these days you also have them when entering invoices and credits and sales orders, purchase orders. So you got them in a number of different areas, and it just means you can filter your records based on that if required. But let's say I wanted to filter my report based around this sort of first field, the customer type. Or maybe I want to do it against my second field. So I've got this, what I term the responsible rep. You might call it an account manager or something like that. We've got different names in there as well. So you're allowed up to 10 characters for the title. If you did need to change that, you just do it within settings configuration. Find the custom fields tab, and then you can change those titles if you want. Now, the information itself isn't available via a drop down. So if I click into that, I don't get choices. I just need to type that in. So you need to make sure the spelling's correct when you type that in. Doesn't matter whether it's upper or lowercase, so it's not that sensitive. But as long as it's spelled correctly, you've got a bit of consistency in there. Now, let's say this responsible rep, let's say we want a list of customers that are allocated to a specific rep in our case. So we might want a list of customers that George looks after, for instance. So what we can do is we can amend the report. Now, it might be that we have a number of different reports, and we could have it sort of almost like preset, where we say, right, we want to run this report. We always want it to pick up George. We might want it to pick up one of our other reps. We don't want to have to specify that every time. But by having it set up as criteria, so we can specify it there and then at the point of running that. So again, we'll just go back to our customer details, our customer list reports. So I'll find it, customer details, got that customer list, just the standard report there as well. And we'll edit that one. Again, we'll go to report at the top, into criteria. And I'm going to add new criteria this time. So again, you might be familiar. Hopefully it's starting to build on your knowledge a little bit now. It's saying which database field would you like to filter on? So basically, which variable? So the first thing is the table. So it's the sales ledger. So it's information from the customer record that I want to base that on. And then I'm looking for the analysis 2 field. Now, although you might have renamed analysis 2, the custom field, from analysis 2 to something else, it still shows as a variable. Its name is still analysis 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, depending which field you're looking at. So it's analysis 2 that I'm after. And I'll just OK that. Now, the status is automatically set to enabled. Now, I do have the option to rename it as well. So one it being called analysis 2. So that's the text that will appear on that criteria window that pops up when you go to run the report. So you'll see that in a moment. So for now, I'll just go to OK that. You can see it's added on there. Again, I could move it around if I wanted to. So if I think, right, well, I want that to be the first criteria, you can use the obviously highlight it and move it up position-wise if required. Actually, we'll just do that now, just so you can see. So it moves into sort of the second position on that list there. I'll just OK that. We'll go to preview at the bottom. And you'll see we get the customer range, and we also get the analysis to field now. Now I'm going to change this one when I run this report. I'm going to say is, and because it's I've chosen is, it's now just defaulted to one field rather than the first option or the all option. So I'm going to say is, and I'm going to type Malcolm, which is, see if I can spell it right. There we go. And then I'll just leave all the other criteria as it is. Just okay that. So what I've now got, and I'll just zoom in, not that there's much to see at this point, but what we've now got is basically a list of customers where the responsible rep is set to Malcolm. Now in this case, it's not case sensitive when we type that in onto the criteria. It doesn't matter whether I had a capital M for Malcolm or not, but as long as it was spelled correctly. It should then work for you. Now, one thing to be aware of is that any new criteria that you've enabled, it doesn't automatically appear on the report output. So this sort of section here at the top. If I did want to include that, I would need to add it in manually. Again, it would just be a case of adding in additional information at that point. So I could add a title in for whatever I want to call it. Again, it's just a bit of text there. And then I could add in the relevant variable or variables, depending what it is you're searching for. So criteria itself is just, it's a way of limiting the report data at the point of running the report. So it's useful if that selection criteria might change. So if I've got a number of reps and I want to be able to specify that each and every time, I can do that. Whereas if I wanted to run a report which was specifically, it only ever picked up Malcolm's customers, maybe so Malcolm himself can run that without having to amend reports, etc., just to take that out of the equation, then we would maybe then use a filter, and that's something that we're going to be covering in the filters session. So criteria itself, we're just about finished the webinar at that point as well. So I think it was just a half-hour session, so really simple to do. So do have a bit play around with that. Remember, you can't do any harm to your data when you're editing reports. You can't do any harm to the standard reports. Remember, you have to take a copy of them. So you'll need to do that file save as if you make any changes to a standard report. So the one I've looked at, the customer list, remember, if I went to file, you'll see that saves grayed out. So I need to do a save as just to force me to save a copy of that one. Any additional questions just at this stage? I think Laura and Tina's picked those up so far. If you think of any additional questions, though, do pop them in there. Right, just bring us to the end of the demo. So a really simple one, that one. When you're editing a report, you'll find it within report and then criteria. The other one we're going to be covering in the next session will be the filters option. A bit more in depth than what we've covered today, which is why we've sort of split the original session. We used to cover filters and criteria together, but it means we can give you a little bit more detail on the filter side. So if you do have any questions, take that opportunity to pop them in now. As I say, if we don't get a chance to answer your questions, we are on top of them at the moment. But if we don't get a chance to answer your question, we miss it. Apologies in advance, but we'll just drop you an answer later on. So the session has been recorded. A link to the recording will be included on your follow-up email. That will be sent out around about an hour's time, so watch out for that one. And get yourself registered for some of the other sessions as well, if you are interested. Our next badge will be at the beginning of next month. I'm trying to think there, it's beginning of November. And that will be to celebrate International Accounting Day. So that's early in November, that one. So we're running a series of webinars. Actually, I'll just bring up that screen so you can see what we are covering. Share my screen and we'll open up my browser, pop onto the webinar page. So these are the links you get given as well to these articles. So for International Accounting Day, we're going to be looking at bank feeds. It's going to be a little bit shorter than normal, not as in-depth as normal for bank feeds if you have attended that one in the past. Session 2, we'll be looking at Copilot, specifically the latest enhancement, which is automated payment reminders. Session 3, we'll look at Sage Connect. So Sage Connect, if you've not come across that yet, it's a way of giving your customers access to their account online. So if you think about those telephone calls that you get when people are, they've lost your invoice, or they're getting to the month end, or they're doing their VAT returns and they need a copy of a document, and they ring you up, or you receive those emails, I need a copy of this. With Sage Connect, that can be hosted online and they can access that themselves. Also, we're looking at AI document capture. So we're looking at how you can import purchase invoices and purchase credits from either a scanned copy or an email. So getting that to essentially load that into your software. And then obviously we have the quiz, which is we attach to all of these types of badging sessions, just to test your knowledge, to see if you can remember. Excuse me, just see if you can remember anything from the sessions you've attended. If you are interested, get yourself signed up. Obviously 2 dates for each session. So hopefully there's one in there to suit, and hopefully we'll see you on there. But loads of other sessions are as well. We're covering management reports tomorrow. Next week, Matt's going to be taking you through the VAT return. There's parts 1 and 2. Laura's going to be taking you through batch changes next week. I'm on Copilot duty on Thursday. So loads of sessions to get stuck into if you are interested, and loads beyond that as well. Links to those will be included in your follow-up email. If anyone's missed any of it, then again, watch out for your email. It'll include the link to today's recording. Eddie, your question there, does AI document capture, does it negate the need for auto entry? Not quite yet. With auto entry, it will essentially you'll have a link when your transaction uploads. You will still have that link to the document itself. That's something that's coming in on next update for AI document capture. It doesn't do that yet. You would need to manually attach the PDF copy or the copy of the email to the transaction manually. Easy enough to do, but you've still got to do that manually as it stands. That will be resolved and improved with the next update. So watch this space for more information about that one. So webinars, again, you can easily access those, both the live and the recordings. Just head along to sage.co.uk/webinars, always the same link. You can access from there. You can access the ones for Sage 50 accounts and Sage 50 payroll. And also if anyone uses Sage Accounting or Sage Payroll, then you can access those from there as well. Finally, thank you for attending. Hope you've enjoyed that one. Quite a short session, that one. Take a minute to complete the survey that should pop up as you leave. You can do that, that's all we ask. Take a minute to do that. If you have any thoughts, ideas about improving webinars, topics that you'd like to see covered going forward, we're always open to ideas. So if you can take that minute, we really appreciate it. And again, watch out for your follow-up email. You'll receive that in around about an hour's time. Anything in the meantime, do check out the Help Centre. And also, if you need anything urgently, just get in touch with our support team. Right, I think we're on top of the questions, so we'll end the webinar just at that point. Many thanks for coming along. Do get yourself registered for some of those other webinars. Have a good look through, see what interests you. If you can't find what you're after, check out the recordings. And if it's still not there, let us know. Get in touch. Hopefully we'll see you on some of them soon. Many thanks.